All right, team, just a quick reaction on today's news. On the 16th of September, we have gotten our Skybound Odyssey season patch. If this came a little bit earlier than I thought, normally I'd have a group of my friends getting together on discussing what our predictions was. What we're going to do is a reaction show next week with a couple of the guys from Altered TCG.blog and myself and Nick if everything goes properly. But let's do a recap of what happened. So I'm going to read through this and I'll give you some of my reactions. Recap of the latest patch. After many months of careful consideration, with the last patch, we made the decision to errata Raphanis, and boy, we've seen his use come down substantially. This errata has breathed new life into the game's diversity. While three heroes, Trace, Sigismar, and Kojo, have taken a central place in the meta, this change has also paved the way for others like Fen, Basira, Achadi, Tasia, and Nevenka, all of whom we've seen performing well on the leaderboard in recent weeks and also have made it through. Outside of Tasia winning World Championships. Oh, actually, Nevenka didn't either. The decision has been well received by the vast majority of the community. Our conversation with players, whether they were Raphanis players or not, indicate that the errata was appropriate and has been largely accepted. We understand the disappointment of some players seeing their hero weakened, but we remain convinced that this was a necessary decision for the overall health of the game's environment. I think so as well. Of course, if it's a hero that you enjoy, it is going to hurt a little bit more. But from a perspective of diversity, there is a lot more happening. Though I would say, from a Bravos perspective, they really are the majority of the meta these days, and so is I guess from a hero perspective, we are really looking at Traced as well. All right, the Skybound Odyssey season patch. What have they said they're going to do? First of all, Helping Hand, which had previously been suspended, is now unsuspended. The changes to Aphanis, meaning this card gains fleeting, is good enough for everyone, and for me, it is also good enough. So good to see this card back in the fold. So what they're saying here is starting October the 3rd, Izmir players will once again be able to use Helping Hand. Our internal testing has shown that the card is now naturally balanced by the Aphanis errata, and we believe it has reached its intended state without posing future issues. I completely agree. We will, of course, continue to closely monitor Aphanis' performance following this reintroduction. I think it gets stronger, but I don't think it's going to be that much more. With this unsuspension, we want to restore Aphanis' original gameplay intent and tools, which we now believe are properly aligned with the current meta. This should also enable Izmir players to explore new deck building dynamics, and we're going to see a little bit of what is happening later on in terms of another card that is coming back to the fold. Now, the big change. This is, if anyone believes this was never forecasted to occur, you're living under a rock. So Bugfix. It is in the Axiom common and rare, has been suspended. Take a look at it now. You will not be seeing this card be played in the near future until a new mechanic is worked out on how this will work. So in the last patch, we shared our concerns about the gameplay experience of the Bugfix combo. While strategies using the combo haven't dominated the current meta, we've seen a lot of frustration from players facing decks that exploit this unwanted mechanic, as it often prevents any counterplay. The interactions created by this combo lead to confusion, uncontrollable, and frustrating board states that are outside the experience we want to offer. Based on these findings, we made the decision to suspend Bugfix. A Trace Bugfix deck winning the World Championship qualifier in Barcelona and one of my friends losing out to it on September 7th has only reinforced our decision. Now, I've recently started using Bugfix purely to try to get my elo back up to where I was before I started trying a whole bunch of different decks. And I can absolutely see that once you have these cards in hand, especially if you have two uniques that give you the Bugfix combo. So yeah, they get rid of one, you just play the next one out, and you play it for the next day. So you have basically 4 days where you can dominate the board. It is not a fun experience. I did it for fun. It is not a deck that I think should be available. I have no idea what they're going to do as the potential fix. In my mind, maybe all you've got to do is ensure that it cannot be triggered by Traced himself. Okay, because then you have to have cards with boost. It makes it a little bit more difficult, but with Traced it was unlimited in what it could do. So this step gives us the necessary time to explore different adjustment options, whether it's targeted errata or an update to the game's rules, in order to make the cards function clearer, more intuitive, and aligned with our original design intentions. While we've already identified some potential solutions, we'd rather continue testing to ensure we find the healthiest and fairest approach possible. I actually love what what Equinox does. Let's take the card out of circulation. It may only be out of circulation for two months. It may be up to 4 months, and then usually bring it in with in many cases the best potential outcome, or more so than I could at least consider myself. While I'll be sad to not be able to play Bugfix, I think we are all better for it. I feel bad for the player at Barcelona that has now qualified, has to completely build a new deck within 4 weeks, on top of the other 2 decks they're trying to build to be able to get some iteration of what will happen on. The next one's a little bit more interesting. So Moonlight Jellyfish, which has been banned, which has been suspended for so long, has now been banned. The first card to get a full ban in the game. So let's have a read of what they say so far. The unique Moonlight Jellyfish was suspended several months ago due to a combination of unforeseen interactions and a power level that was far too high for their costs. One cost most of the time. Their effects, which centered on sacrificing cards and interacting with the discard and reserve, turned out to be far more powerful and unpredictable than we anticipated. Its problematic recursivity and excessive energy with other mechanics created a huge issue. Basically, it's the Bugfix thing all over again, but with other benefits as well. The problem was compounded by the nature of the unique cards themselves. Each jellyfish had several distinct effects that are difficult to evaluate across all possible game situations. We discussed this in our errata patch discussions last season, saying maybe this is the first card to be banned, and they have absolutely done that. There's just too many complications, too many interactions. So since the suspension, our testing team and game designers have worked extensively on this complex issue with every new patch. We explored numerous options, including adjusting their costs, preventing them from targeting themselves, adding a mana cost to send them back to the reserve, and imposing an additional cost for their sacrifice ability. But each of these solutions only partially solved the problem, all while compromising the card's original design, pointlessly increasing their complexity or reducing their effects too drastically. So this is great. They've done a whole bunch of stuff. And ultimately, I would also say, this means they're going to have to do stuff forward if they didn't ban it. Always been reminded, how does this interact with these cards? Do we have to errata? You don't want to errata something twice. So because of this, we've made the difficult decision, but necessary decision, to permanently ban all unique Moonlight Jellyfish, including those in Axiom. So Axiom had never really used this that much, but including that, especially with this new set that's coming out, Moonlight Jellyfish would have been too much. Any errata aimed at bringing them into a healthy gameplay experience would have simply made them unplayable. We'd rather take responsibility for this decision and offer compensation, finally something about compensation, to our players instead of finding a workaround. Furthermore, the risk of unwanted future interactions would have required us to permanently monitor every new mechanic that interacts with them, which simply isn't a viable long-term solution. And I completely agree. Every game has erratas, every game has bans. This is the first. What is crazy, though, is because of this and what they're going to do, we saw a flood of people going to the marketplace trying to buy these cards. So they can get what is the compensation, you ask, and let's go through that. So player compensation. With this ban, we are officially introducing our compensation policy for cards affected by our balanced decisions. This policy applies to cards that have received an erratum or have been banned, like Moonlight Jellyfish. So this is for every card that has an erratum. I don't know if they're going to offer it for commons and rares, given they're so easy to get, but definitely for unique. So this will be a question we do need to get some clarification from Equinox about as well, given there are some rares, and I personally have a buttload of those rares that I'm happy to be able to get compensated for, but I don't think it's what they should do. Okay, we know that losing access to a card can be a tough experience for any player. With this compensation, we hope to open up new gameplay possibilities for affected players by providing new, randomly distributed, unique cards you can use to build your strategies around. So you're going to get a unique card. Specifically for Moonlight Jellyfish, we want to offer every player who currently owns one or more copies a compensation of one random unique card from the current set in Skybound Odyssey for each copy that they own. Interesting. Now, when does this go live? Is it from the moment that this announcement was made? Is it from when the set goes through? These are questions that I've got right now. Additionally, to make up for the long wait between the initial suspension of Moonlight Jellyfish and the rollout of this policy, we will also give every affected player one extra Skybound Odyssey unique card. So we're going to get two for every card that you have that has had an errata. Sorry, in this case, just for the Moonlight Jellyfish. Let's talk about this. The full details of this policy will be shared next week and will take effect with Skybound Odyssey's season patch after the set's release. Okay? That's okay. It still doesn't explain to me when you have it, because one of the things that I noticed is before this announcement went live, people were already buying these. So did any of this leak and they're getting the benefit more so than others? What I would love to occur with something like this is before the announcement of any patch, you can kind of stop the ability of selling and buying uniques on the marketplace, or at least the cards that have been affected, really put a block on them so that anyone that has more information, this is basically insider trading, that they don't have the ability of doing that. The other erratum that's come out is Will of the Wisp. So this has been errated to be able to change because of a new card that's coming out called the Western Wind. So during our latest internal testing, we identified an unwanted interaction between Will of the Wisp and the Western Wind, a new card from Skybound Odyssey. Specifically, when these two cards are played together, their combined effect allows a player to move an opponent's expedition back for a cost and rarity level that we believe is too low for such a powerful effect. To ensure an optimal gameplay experience for all players, we're issuing an erratum for the common and rare Lyra versions of Will of the Wisp to prevent this interaction from being exploited. This erratum should not significantly impact the way Will of the Wisp has been played in Lyra decks so far. That's because this interaction wasn't available. So the original test was if the expedition facing me is in water, it can't move forward except due to water. The new text will read, if an expedition facing me is in water, it can't move forward during dusk except due to water. Okay, and that is actually a really good way of making this card. For those that don't know, the Western Wind basically says that you can, for 2 cost, you can make somebody move backwards and someone move forward. So in this case, you can't move. Therefore, you can actually move one of your expeditions forward and not get the other effect of moving one of the expeditions backwards. We've also decided not to issue an erratum for the unique Lyra version of Will of the Wisp. Our internal tests have shown that using a unique slot for this type of powerful effect is both balanced and acceptable, and we believe it will help create more diversity in Lyra deck building strategies. Of course, uniques, I like this, is that you're only able to have 3 of these slots. It'll be far and few between when you get this ability. I'm okay with that. In terms of suspended cards, let's have a look at that. So Baba Yaga still stays suspended, so no updates there for Ordis. Unfortunately, the card draw is something you're going to have to look for more in uniques again. Moonlight Jellyfish has now been banned, first thing. And in terms of the watch list, the Kattiger and Mage Dancer has been removed from the watch list, and we have now added a suspension of the Bugfix. Testing has shown that the Kattiger and Mage Dancer, even when paired with Helping Hand, is now at a power level that aligns with our expectations. The card remains a cornerstone of Afanas' strategy, and removing it would weaken the hero to the point of making its decks unviable. Given the current meta, we no longer consider this card to be a problem. I believe it as well. They haven't really talked about the other things on the watch list, which was the looping, and you're seeing it a lot in Muna, the looping, how do we call it, anchoring. Which is one effect that I think should still be looked at, and we've seen a lot more Muna get access to those cards these days. So the effective date, the season patch will go live on October 3rd, 2025 for all platforms, including Board Game Arena. So for those that love Bugfix, get your fix on as much as you can. Get that frustration to your opponent for a little bit longer in-store and competitive play. We hope the time between this announcement and the effective date give all players a chance to review the changes and adjust their strategies accordingly before the patch goes live. I am a fan of patches being announced and then having two or so weeks to get adjusted. Player compensation, so our official errata and ban compensation policy, which will compensate for all bans as well as past and future errata, will be revealed in full detail next week. I'm excited for that in terms of what we're going to get for every card that's been errated. The first part of the policy, which covers the errata, will take place immediately. So my thoughts on this, and I hope it is correct, and we need some clarifying, is that the moment this is announced, whoever held those cards, those Moonlight Jellyfishes, is going to get the 2 additional uniques. I hope people didn't go out. I know people went out and spent a bit of money. Usually the cheaper ones bought them out, so the chance of getting 2 uniques. I do like that it was immediate, and for those that went out and bought it, I'm sorry. You were trying to snipe the system. No offense, but you're trying to beat the system so you can get additional benefits yourself. It would probably before that person had a chance to know that they were going to get something for the card they've got. The second part, which deals with banned cards like Moonlight Jellyfish, will take effect after the launch of Skybound Odyssey. So I don't know, maybe I'm wrong on this, but I wish it was immediate. This part allows you to receive unique cards for owning 1 or more banned cards. I like this. I think that's a really good way of doing it. I feel bad for those that have spent a lot of money. Those Moonlight Jellyfishes that went for hundreds of dollars are now useless, and you spend all that money and you have the chance of getting some amazing uniques or some rotten uniques that are not worth $5 or €5 for those that are talking. So anyway, my reactions, I like what they're doing. It's about time we had the player compensation, but even then, everything is good and all to go. Let's see what happens. Bye.